Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Diana Quintero. Thank you for joining us. If food waste were a country, it would be the third largest on Earth when accounting for the waste's greenhouse gas emissions. In the U.S., about 40% of food is wasted, and Arizona is the leading state in the nation for food waste. A team of documentary students from ASU School of Sustainability and the Cronkite School introduce us to some local heroes working on solutions to keeping food out of our landfills.
Man, food is the main problem here. 40% of the food that is grown is never eaten.
It's a tragic statistic because how much produce is needed to support the world, and not just in Arizona, not just the United States, but globally.
Arizona is the leading state in food waste.
Why? Why do we have so much food waste?
People overgrow, overproduce. It also comes from overconsumption.
Food waste could mean many different things. It could be, cuttings of like vegetables. So let's say you're doing meal prep and you have like the top of a carrot. That could be considered food waste, or it could be something in your fridge that may have spoiled.
Food waste to me is anything that is organic that I can keep out of a landfill. I think that's as easy as you can sum it up.
About 60 to 70% of produce is grown from Mexico. Distributors find their sources to see if they can sell the produce. If they cannot, normally it gets dumped in a landfill.
Food waste is awful for the environment. Eventually food will make its way to the landfill and it just sits there.
It attempts to break down and it really can't. So it starts producing methane gas, which has a higher global warming potential than carbon dioxide.
When you're creating food waste, you're emitting more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Landfills are actually the third largest source of methane, and it's largely because of food waste.
That's going to have effects years, decades into the future.
Listen, I like being a chef, right? I like the grind of being a chef. I like the hours. I love kitchens. I grew up in kitchens. Kitchens became my daycare when I was 5 or 6 years old. It was an opportunity to see my dad, really. My dad was in the kitchens, right? Years ago, my dad would take overproduced food and he would load it into a specific freezer. Once a month or so, he would go feed the community. It was incredibly inefficient. It was a degraded product of the food. I was always searching subconsciously of how do you keep perishables? What happens to them? And one day, years and years and years ago, a lady comes by. It's hard for me to talk about, so give me just a second. But a lady came by from Waste Not. She said she had this company that was putting food out to the community.
Waste Not is a nonprofit that rescues prepared and perishable food and gets that to over 75 nonprofits that feed the hungry. We specifically at Waste Not work with food businesses, really large caterers. We work with Elastic Catering, a whole bunch.
On a business side, it was the last piece to my sustainability drive of going zero landfill.
It's a great solution to get that food that would just normally get thrown into the landfill and give it to the people who need it.
They count on me to protect the dignity of their clients as they deliver food. That means we've got to do a great job on presenting that food and panning it and giving it to them, not throwing it in bags and handing it off. We produce about 80,000 pounds a year for the community. And so when you're talking about 80,000 pounds a year, it's mind-boggling how much food is actually out there. The nature of events, of banquets, of whatever you call them, you have a tremendous amount of food.
What Waste Not does is extremely important because there is excess food everywhere. And there are hungry people everywhere. About 1 million Arizonans suffer from food insecurity and are hungry.
Here in South Phoenix, we know There's vitamin A deficiencies, so that's your squash and your meats, and so to see anything like that go to waste is like heartbreaking. We're a human services organization. Our mission here is to really have a balanced food box, but also make sure that the food coming in isn't wasted.
Yeah, have a good day, man. Yeah, bless you, man.
There's so much need out there, and we know that people can use it if it's good. We definitely want to see more food that's edible and fresh come into food pantries and be used for the people who really need it and the families who really need it, especially the kids.
We just so happened to send some baked goods that included a cake to the Boys and Girls Club one day. And there was a child there, and it was his birthday, and the kid got to take home a cake, and it just made his day. It made his family's day because they weren't able to afford a luxury goodie like that.
Oh, you know what? We forgot tomatoes.
This is my passion, to be in food banking, to help people to get and supplement meals. Thank you, ma'am. I came here when I was 3 years old from Hong Kong, and my parents didn't have much when they came here. As a food bank alone, we distribute 32 million pounds annually through our 4 programs. Produce on Wheels Without Waste is one of our programs. We provide a good supplement to an individual or a family with up to 70 pounds of produce at 21 cents per pound for $15 contribution. About 60 to 70% of produce is grown from Mexico. The produce arrives in Rio Rico, Arizona, and that's where the staging point for all purchasing of produce for grocery chains and supermarkets. We are 13 miles south of Rio Rico, so we have the ability to be able to transport the produce from their warehouse to our warehouse. We take that produce to make sure it goes out within the same week. Through our whole produce life cycle, at the end, there are always going to be waste.
Hi, Bubsies. You want a snacky?
So if there's anything we can't use that comes in from grocery stores, we have a farmer that comes and picks up those items, go to the farm. And so his pigs gets a yummy meal.
Instead of taking it back to the landfill, we want to offer some of it or most of it to animals or ranchers.
Composting is really great. It's fun to teach your children, and you make sure that waste that you produce in your household doesn't go to the landfill.
Composting stuff makes me feel great. And I'm in the dirt, every day, getting dirty. This is my life. I spend every day, all day, just thinking about this stuff. I love compost. So we pick up food waste from residential and commercial customers, and then all the food waste that we pick up, we take it back to our farm, and then we do all the composting ourselves. I started with an abandoned pickup truck and a shovel 8 years ago in a backyard, and I was actually digging holes and burying the food waste. Our sales keep going up. We've never stopped growing, both the composting and the farming. The vans come back here, we dump the buckets out, start mixing it. So 100% of the food waste we pick up is used to regenerate the farmland. And then the local farm has a great resource to rebuild the soil and grow vegetables.
How can we do better, right? And everything we do, there's always a way to do better. And there's always a way to save more food and get more food into the people's hands that need it.
We are in a society of consumption, right? You help with intelligent consumption.
Managing the waste, I think, is something we could all do better.
I would love for us to reduce and find ways to prevent food from going to the landfill. The biggest thing that when we educate residents is to try to reduce your food waste right at the source. So when you're at the grocery store, if you're going to buy something, buy only what you need. At home, if you have stuff in your fridge, labeling it, little things like that have a big impact.
We need to make sure that individuals and food businesses and anyone really involved in the food waste stream is aware of how it affects people and how it affects our environment.
There has to be a commitment there to donate from the managers and the executives at the stores to say we want it to go to people in our community who need it, and that needs to be a priority.
Food waste is a problem, but a lot of people are doing a lot of good work to make sure that we mitigate that problem. Knowing that I had a part in saving the environment, and I had a part in making sure that a bunch of methane doesn't get into the air because of all the food in the landfill. Knowing that I made a difference is really worth it to me. There's an app for that. Match.com for food. We just match the food donation with the food recipient, and it's a match.
Strangest thing, I think I found like a bike tire once, a hose. I think I've seen a hose in there.
And I would like to say thank you for all these volunteers that show up, and without them we're not able to help people supplement meals.
Why do you think Arizona is the leading state in the country for food waste?
Oh my gosh, it is. That's awful. We definitely don't want to be number one. We want to get that number down to 50 or something, right?
The mic that you have in your pocket, I may have given it to you turned off.
I think it was.
Was it turned off? Yes.
Yeah.
I am so
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm glad I have a second take. So.
Yeah, take two. Take two. Take two.
So thanks for the opportunity. Thank you for what all you guys are doing. And yeah, so awesome. Thanks.
Now, we're taking a look back at stories from our sustainability team, from efforts to clean up abandoned mines to a look at Phoenix's effort to increase bike lanes.
And officials estimate that there may be more than 100,000 abandoned mines in Arizona, mines that may be leaching hazardous material into the state's waterways. Cleanup can be difficult, but a bill in Washington could make things a little bit easier. Cronkite News reporter Emily Miranda has more from our Washington bureau.
The problem with abandoned mines is that the owners who should clean them up are long gone, and anyone who wants to do the right thing and do the cleanup could legally be liable. That's where the Good Samaritan bill comes in.
Arizona Department of Environmental Quality Director Misiel Cabrera says the bill would eliminate the threat of legal action against someone working to clean up a mine.
I believe that this legislation is a great first step towards dealing with a considerable and significant problem all across the country and certainly in the West.
Many mines in Arizona were abandoned before current laws took effect that make mine owners liable for cleanup. Organizations that might come in and do the cleanup today worry that they could end up legally liable.
And what it does is it serves as a barrier and an obstacle to volunteers, nonprofits, new owners, or even states that want to clean up a site.
Under the bill, the Environmental Protection Agency would issue up to 15 Good Samaritan cleanup permits. Recipients would have to abide by all environmental rules during the cleanup, but would be relieved of the fear of legal liability for the mine. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly said the bill is urgently needed in the state, where 120 streams are contaminated with minerals frequently associated with abandoned mines. He said 93 of those streams end up being sources for drinking water.
You know, these threats are threats to potential sources of drinking water. and they need to be taken seriously.
The first 15 Good Samaritan permits will go toward pilot projects across the country, projects that Cabrera believes can be used as a roadmap for larger cleanup efforts.
It'll be a great first step towards a broader program that'll open up opportunities to do this kind of remediation in a much larger scale.
Both Kelly and Cabrera said the problem of polluted waterways is particularly important to drought-ravaged Arizona, where every drop of water is important. In Washington, Emily Miranda, Cronkite News.
Cabrera says Arizona already has a list of 4 sites it plans to submit to the EPA for consideration as one of those first Good Samaritan sites, and the state will look to add others to the list in the future.
We tend to think of airports as just a place that gets us to where we need to go, but they also have an impact on our environment. Reporter Alexis Sandbridge tells us about 2 area airports' sustainability efforts and one that's being recognized.
Airports as large as the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport are like mini cities and often use the same type of resources. But Sky Harbor Airport is improving their environmental footprint, and they're being recognized for it by an international organization.
We're among other airports. There are 3 of us that have a level 4 or above rating in the United States. So it means that we are achieving our carbon emissions goals, and we're striving to be net carbon zero by 2040.
They're doing this with more solar panels, more electric vehicles, and increasing building efficiency.
Our new concourse at Terminal 4, we have smart windows, and those have been designed to reduce the glare.
Some of the other sustainability efforts here at Sky Harbor Airport include recycling bins and stations to empty your liquids so you can refill them when you get through security.
Arizona State University professor Bruno Sarda agrees that these are important efforts, but he also says airports can lower emissions by reducing plane idling.
If they have to park, they have to refuel, they have to, get on and off gates, those kinds of things.
The Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport is also working on its sustainability efforts, including recycling runway concrete to pave new runways. Gateway Airport Director of Communications Ryan Smith says the airport is also building a more sustainable terminal to replace the old temporary building.
The air just flows through some of these older buildings that just aren't as energy efficient.
Smith said the new terminal will include tinted windows and better air efficiency. Sarda says the changes, while often expensive, eventually pay off.
A sustainable building often is a much less expensive building to operate.
In Phoenix and Mesa, Alexia Stambridge, Cronkite News.
The Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport's new terminal is expected to finish construction in February 2024.
A report from the city of Phoenix found more than 260 bicycle collisions in 2020, and 80% of collisions occurred within 150 feet of an intersection. Broadcast reporter Olivia Doles spoke with an advocacy member about how the city plans to educate drivers and bikers to make the streets safer.
You may have seen new green bike lanes pop up across the city. In 2014, the city of Phoenix created a 20-year bicycle master plan to develop a more bicycle-friendly area. The result, bicycle lanes like these.
Hey, let's go.
John Henry always had a love of riding bikes with his wife. Now, since the city of Phoenix created new bike lanes in central Phoenix, Henry can enjoy bike rides with his 3 children, knowing they will be safe.
Generally, it does feel a lot safer. This is a great improvement over what it was.
Henry says the bollards are helpful. Hundreds of flexible bollards have been installed along bike lanes to help keep cars away from bikers.
In one sense, they're doing what we need them to do, and they're stopping cars from driving in the bike lane.
Langford says the idea for bollards came from city residents who use bike lanes.
We reached out to the community, talked to the stakeholders in the area, and kind of got the concept of, hey, what is it people are wanting?
As of June 30th, the city of Phoenix has created 578 center line bike lanes.
The city was built around cars, and now the city is kind of having to re-engineer parts of it to accommodate other users.
Another way the city of Phoenix is keeping bikers and vehicles safe is through education. This includes everything from bicycle safety graphic novels to YouTube videos and, of course, signs.
A lot of signs in relation to directly the design of the bike lane.
Henry works with an advocacy group in the city to ensure everyone can stay safe Enjoy the ride and make memories.
What's your favorite memory biking with your kids?
So close, you get to talk to each other, and you're usually on the side streets where it's pretty quiet. And then it's nice because if they're sitting all the way at the front, they can just reach over and give you a hug.
2019, the City of Phoenix concluded that there was a 29% decrease in bicycle collisions that helped the 5-year downward trend. In Phoenix, Olivia Doles, Cronkite News.
National Public Land Day is the nation's largest single-day volunteer event. Cronkite News reporter Sydney Whitty introduces wildland cleanup warriors who are doing more than cleaning the environment.
I recently went out to the Salt River to meet with a group dedicated to keeping the outdoors clean and open to the public. But for veterans involved with the group, the mission is more personal.
National Public Lands Day promotes the connection between people and the environment.
Hundreds of volunteers are off, hitting the shores and the water.
Yeah, it's a river, bud.
The mission today is to clean up the heavily used area of the Salt River. Armed with a grabber and plastic bag, Justin Ballard prowls the trail for trash.
I am out here to be able to help the future generations to enjoy nature as it is.
As lofty as that goal is, Ballard is also seeking something simpler.
It's helped to calm my mind. I do have, mental issues that stem from the military service. So being able to get out in nature, free myself from everyday struggles of life, being able to focus on myself.
Ballard works with Natural Restorations, an organization that hires veterans to work on outdoor projects. The company was created by Nicole Corey and her husband.
It's really part of the heart and soul of our organization is to give back to veterans. My husband, Justin's best friend from high school, served several tours in the U.S. Army overseas in the Middle East and came back with traumatic brain injury and PTSD. And when he came back, he was really struggling to reintegrate into civilian society.
Currently, 16 veterans work with the organization. They have completed over 113 team restoration projects that include everything from graffiti removal to projects like this. They all have one thing in common: they work mind, body, and spirit.
For veterans, being out in nature can be a tranquil experience. Quiet in nature and the stillness help with their anxieties.
The camaraderie of working as a team also mimics the brotherhood they experienced while in the service.
We hang out outside of work, so we're not just coworkers. We become what I feel like lifelong friends.
Ballard is the longest serving member of the team and says this work is another way to give back like he did in the military.
It's been an amazing time with them. They provided me so much work as well as so much just mental health.
He'll keep working, clearing his mind, and making the world a better place for himself and the rest of us. Natural Restoration has cleanup scheduled across Arizona for volunteers and their dedicated team. Their next fall cleanup is on October 22nd at Sycamore Falls. In the newsroom, Sydney Whitty, Cronkite News.
Fat Bear Week starts October 5th and runs through the 11th. This week, parks across the nation raise awareness for the time of year when bears start bulking up for the winter. Cronkite News reporter Sarah Blue is taking a look at how weight gain is going for bears up north.
Across Arizona, bears enter hyperphagia at the end of summer. During this time, bears prepare for their long winter nap by eating as much as possible.
So for a wild bear to be fat is a healthy bear, and it's important because, again, their whole life, their whole year is based around getting food.
Bears steadily fatten up for winter. One bear we met gained almost 10 pounds in 1 week. In the end of September, this bear, named Cronkite, already weighed 460 pounds. At Bearizona, bears are given around 40 pounds of protein every morning. In the wild, bears will eat everything they can.
Eventually in that hyperphagia stage, they're eating literally everything. Dead carcasses, they're eating berries, they're eating anything they can literally shove and put in their mouth, they're packing it in because they need to be as fat as they can to survive through a long winter.
Fat Bear Week was originated in Katmai National Park to raise awareness for the park's healthy grizzly population. This is a March Madness style competition where viewers vote on which bear they think gained the most weight for winter. At Bearizona, they have their own version of this event with all female bears this year.
And what's cool is that during this week, we're going to show off some of our fat bears as we're going into hyperphagia and even past hyperphagia into a hibernation type state or type period of their life.
The goal is to educate people about what fat and healthy looks like for a bear. In Williams, Sarah Blue for Cronkite News.
Fat Bear Week runs nationally October 5th to 11th, and Bearizona runs their contest online starting this Sunday.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
We tell ourselves stories as a nation.
These stories need to be highlighted, they need to be explored.
We're the dreamers. How serious is America's commitment to looking at its history? How can we learn from the past?
Douglas said, "You're going to look me in the eye and see my humanity."
It's illuminating. I'm seeing the expansiveness of my history.
It's pretty great.
There's so much richness to Black life and Black culture.
I think the story of Muslims in America is the story of America.
Tonight, they are free.
I cannot imagine how excited he must have been.
It's a wonderful feeling. This is why we do this. It makes me even more committed to struggling for a better world.